Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you probably one of the worst detachments. Or so we thought. I think naturally, anybody that was just a little bit curious with the new Astra Militarum stuff coming out looked at Brood Brother Auxilia and asked, well, is it going to get any better? And poring over the rules, I gotta admit, they're a little bit more lenient than I thought. But to be fair, that was pre-Grotmish, where I didn't know quite a bit about both of these armies. Not to say that I'm a savant of either of them now, but knowing a little bit more, I think there's a little bit more play here than previously considered. Because one thing that didn't make sense to me, well, it did, I understood why, is that if both of these armies, one of them was really good, then another one became really good. Now both of them are like good. People are theorizing the other side, Astra Militarum, is going to be better than good again. If you take two things that are good, how bad can it be to put them together? Then you take into account, yeah, well, not the army rule, so they just go blah. Well, one of them doesn't get their army rule, and that's not getting orders. But how bad can it be? So today, I kind of want to go through Brood Brother Auxilia and throw out some ideas that, if anybody's brave enough, might be a little bit more potent than given credit. Now, for this video, I should say I'm going to be focusing on the Astra Militarum a bit more of this because the Genestealer cult part kind of plays its, well, I shouldn't say plays itself, but you can figure that part out because you still have your rule and whatnot, and things that'll get better. Like, for example, we know that a Patriarch and the Genestealers would like to not be overwatched, and that's possible in here. And I want to talk about kind of the workarounds to make that happen more often. So things like that, I won't necessarily be bringing up the interactions from the GSC side too much, but I might touch on one or two. So, going on from that, what do we have? We have Brood Brother Auxilia with integrated tactics. Each time an Astra Militarum unit from your army, see below, is selected to shoot, you can select one enemy unit within 18 inches of and visible to that unit. If you do, until the end of the phase, models in that Astra Militarum unit can only target that enemy unit, and only if it is an eligible target. And that enemy unit is caught in overlapping fire. While an enemy unit is caught in overlapping fire, each time a GSC model from your army targets that enemy unit with a ranged attack, add one to the hit roll. A lot more hoops to jump through than Final Day. Um, Around the same for Auxiliary Cadre, right? TLDR, you need an Astra Militarum to be within 18 inches invisible to the unit you want to shoot for you to get +1 to hit for your GSC. Cool, cool. Brood Brothers, there's a lot of restrictions on what you can't have, and voice of command is gone. So, can't bring aircraft, can't cheese it that way, no commissars, no epic heroes, no militarum tempestus, so no dropping down and doing that, no ogrins, no ratlings, no tech priest engine seer, and no ministorum priest. Alright. That's both more restrictive because as somebody going into it the first time around or whatever I was looking at this, I was like, well, everybody's talking about the Tempestus units. Those gotta be the ones that are the most cracked. Oh, I can't put them in Brood Brothers. Well, this detachment sucks. But beyond that, okay, you can't take the Valkyrie or any of the Legends units. You can't take Commissars, no duh. No epic heroes, of course not. Tempestus, fine. Ogrins, okay. I guess no Bullgrins, but they got nerfed too. No Ratlings, they don't want to take Ratlings. Tech Priest Engine Seer, fine, I guess. And the Ministorm Priest. Alright. Beyond that, free game, right? Um, I could have sworn this detachment was more infantry based than it is. And I think that's where a lot of people stop. So I'm here to tell you, it's not that infantry based. like yeah, the enhancements go infantry, 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 right? Uh, but you're playing GSC, so you need characters, and it wasn't going to go on anything else. So really feels a bit redundant to have infantry there, doesn't it? Like, is there a non-GSC infantry? Is it the what's the one that attaches to the bikes? The Jackal Alphas? Okay, cool, mounted. But beyond that, like no stuff. And martial espionage, I have a crazy little thing for. I shouldn't say crazy, but something that's a little bit interesting. Adaptive reprisal, a little bit better than I gave it credit for. Once per turn, you can target a friendly GSC unit within 9 inches of the bearer with the heroic intervention stratagem for 0 CP. So, your random Sanctus or what's the other one that has sorry, they're all, like all the same. Sanctus Primus, the Reductus Saboteur, right? Um, a lone op that is somewhere, give it 15 points, and then you drop somewhere with Deep Strike. Now you have an aura of, hey, watch out, my GSC units can heroic intervention for free. Now, I should also note, right, if you're still here, I am not trying to tell you that Brood Brother Auxilia is by any means good. Not trying to do that. I'm just saying it might not be that bad. Genuinely. After thinking it over and the things that are good, if GW just learned how to not feel things with words and loops, this could be better. This could be better, right? Like, well, it could be better from a buff standpoint, but this might be better if you just ignore the shit that you don't necessarily have to worry about. Like, on a Tuesday, do a backflip, da 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 da. It said, hey, sometimes heroic intervention for free. Okay? Okay. Hero returned, improved the leadership and OC characteristic of models in the Bears unit by 1. Also, not too bad. For 20 points, it's a little bit iffy, but you give that to Battle Line, and now you have a couple of models with OC3 and better leadership. That's not too bad. And then Firepoint Commander, um, it's. I would have liked it to be Fire Overwatch for free, but Fire Overwatch on 5s for 10 points, that's an okay points filler. And then we go on to the stratagems. We have In the Shadow of Iron, this one we can kind of ignore. It is saying, hey, move close to ambush markers. GSC doesn't really have to worry about that anymore. So, fuck that. Acceptable losses for 2 CP is interesting. It's unfortunate that it costs 2 command points, but you can target one Astra Militarum unit from your army, select one enemy unit within engagement range of one or more GSC units from your army. Until the end of the phase, your unit can make ranged attacks that target that enemy unit. If it does, after it has resolved its attacks, roll 1d6 for each of those GSC units. Units. Perfectly clear. On a 5 up, the unit being rolled for suffers D3 plus 1 mortal wounds. And again, we have ways to cheese this. Now, the 2 CP you kind of have to eat, unfortunately. But that might be worth in some instances, and you can probably tell where I'm going to go with this, right? Regimental reinforcements, you get to bring a unit back. This also, depending on how things get worded when the codex actually comes out, and I know there's been an FAQ, but this might also have slightly more play. It's 1 CP, and I don't like that it's like a 66% chance of passing instead of auto passing, but you've recently got your tokens, and this was back when they didn't give you resurgence tokens. This was just, hey, roll and see if you get to bring a GSC back, a GSC unit back. So they kept the same theme, made it a little bit easier for you, quote unquote, by that standard. But you know, this is whatever. Symbiotic destruction is one that I definitely think kind of overlooked. For one command point, your shooting phase, one Astra Militarum and one GSC unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot this phase. Select one enemy unit that is visible to both of them, and within range of at least one ranged weapon of both of those units. Until the end of the phase, models in those units can only make attacks that target that enemy unit, and if it is an eligible target, when doing so, each time such a model makes an attack, reroll a wound roll of 1. Basically, if you have an Astra Militarum unit and a GSC unit that can see a unit, and both of them can hit it, they have reroll 1s into that. They can only target that, but that might not be too much of a problem. Because again, just has to be visible. Right? Visible. Okay? You have suppress and overwhelm. Your shooting phase just after an Astra Militarum unit from your army has shot. That Astra Militarum unit, select one enemy unit hit by one or more of those attacks. Until the end of the turn, that enemy unit cannot be targeted with fire overwatch, and each time a GSC unit from your army selects that enemy unit as a target of a charge, you can reroll the charge roll. Have something for this too. A dark network. Reinforcement step of your opponent's movement phase just after an enemy unit is set up on the battlefield from reserves. If it happens within a foot of either of your things that isn't a monster or vehicle, reactive move of 6 inches. Fine. So, yeah, like looking over it, the rules kind of don't suck that bad. So, let's get into some things about the data sheets that are a little bit more interesting. So, first, let's get into how you're going to start turning on your army. People know that the Achilles Ridge Runner is good. 9 inches of scout can improve the AP of GSC units that attack after it, and can remove cover. So essentially AP2, right? Well, there's a vehicle from the Astra Militarum side that also has scout that people also call pretty good. Scout Sentinels. For 10 inches, you get some walkers that scout 9 inches, and at the start of your shooting phase, select one enemy unit within 18 inches of, 18 inches of, and visible to this unit. Until the end of the phase, each time a friendly Astra Militarum model makes an attack that targets that unit, reroll a hit roll of 1. And if that target has the indirect fire ability, it does not suffer the penalty to the hit roll for shooting at a target that is not visible to the attacking unit. So, Scout Sentinels, last I checked, you can. This is not a once per ability, right? It is per model. So, 3 Scout Sentinels can select 3 units to give your Astra Militarum reroll hit rolls of 1, and not the penalty of indirect fire. Okay, so now you know where I'm going with this, right? And if it's within 18 inches of invisible, it also is giving your GSC plus 1 to hit. Maybe something like a Ridge Runner that is going to give the rest of your GSC AP1 or plus 1 AP and ignores cover. Right? Right. For 85 or and 55? Not too bad. And something like a Goliath Rock Grinder also can stand to be up there. Each time an enemy unit, excluding monsters and vehicles that is within engagement range of this model, falls back, all models in that enemy unit must take a desperate escape test. When doing so, if that enemy unit is battle shock, subtract 1 from each of those tests. We're not focusing too much on that part, beyond the fact that your Goliath Rock Grinder has decent ranged weapons that can stand to have plus 1 to hit because a Scout Sentinel is 18 inches off invisible to them. So now you have a demo charge that is charge cash, a charge cash that is D6 attacks hitting on 4s, heavy mining laser, heavy seismic cannon, heavy stubbers hitting on 3s. Yeah, that works because this says GSC model. Doesn't say infantry, it'll be fine. Then going on, yeah, I think you could understand where I wanted to go after the Scout Sentinel. we want indirect fire. Uh, the Basilisk. In your shooting phase after this model has shot, if one or more of those attacks made with its Earthshaker cannon, scored a hit against an enemy infantry unit until the end of your opponent's next turn, that unit is shaken. While a unit is shaken, subtract 2 inches from its move characteristic and subtract 2 from charge and advanced charge rolls made for it. Advance and charge. 140 points, right? And also, I double checked that you can put these because, sometimes the guard keywords kind of confuse me a little bit more because you all have a lot of those for no reason. Yeah, I was able to add them to the list in the app, so yeah, I didn't miss that. Basilisk, what about a Death Strike? In your shooting phase, each time this model is selected to shoot, if it has not shot with its Death Strike missile this battle, you can do one of the following in addition to resolving this model's ranged attacks. If this model does not have a Death Strike target marker on the battlefield, place a Death Strike target marker for this model anywhere on the battlefield. If this model has a target marker, you can move it. Plasma Warhead. The bearer can only shoot with this weapon, that would be the Death Strike missile, in your shooting phase, and only if it remains stationary this turn, and if you did not use its Death Strike missile ability to designate target or adjust target this phase. When the bear shoots with this weapon, do not select a target. Instead, resolve this weapon's attacks rolling for each unit within 6 inches of the center of that target marker individually. Death Strike Missile. Blast 1 time. Range not applicable. Attacks 2d6, hitting on 2s. Strength 16, AP 4, damage 1. Yeah, that's pretty decent for 145 points, right? Right. And, well, actually, I'll save that after a couple others. Manticore. Each time this model makes an attack with its Storm Eagle rockets that targets an enemy unit that contains 5 or more models, you can reroll the hit roll. Storm Eagle rockets blast heavy, indirect fire 120 inches, d6 plus 1 hitting on 4s, strength 10, AP 2, damage 3. Okay. Wyverns. This is the one where I'll circle back to something. In your shooting phase with suppression bombardment, in your shooting phase after this model has shot, select one enemy unit that was hit by one or more attacks made with this model's Wyvern Quad Storm Shard Mortar this phase. Until the start of your next turn, that enemy unit is suppressed. While a unit is suppressed, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll. Alright, what is so impressive about that? It is a Wyvern, blast, ignores cover, heavy, indirect fire, twin linked. 2d6 attacks, hitting on 4, strength 5, AP 0, damage 1. For 110 points, the thing that's impressive about this is that you will suppress the enemy if they're not a monster or vehicle. And because they've been hit, okay, suppress and overwhelm. Your shooting phase just after an Astromilitar unit from your army has shot. Select one enemy unit hit by one or more of those attacks. Doesn't have to be visible. Until the end of the turn, that enemy unit cannot be targeted with the Fire Overwatch stratagem, and each time it just see, we already did that part. So, between the Basilisk and, well, I guess the Death Strike and the Wyvern, you can trigger Suppress and Overwhelm pretty much anywhere, saying, hey, I'm going to charge you, and you won't be able to fire Overwatch my Patriarch with Genestealers, my Abominant with Aberrants. Thank you, excuse me. Yeah, good luck with that. You can't fire Overwatch them, and I get to reroll the charge versus you. If your opponent has the command point, and you think that's what's going to happen to you, guess what? They can't do it to you because the indirect fire shot them. And the thing that I wanted to save about the Wyvern part of it is -1 to hit. So if it is some random infantry that something of yours needs to pick up, then it's much better in maybe shooting, or they're just a little okay in hitting in melee. Yeah, makes an attack, not a ranged attack, not a melee attack, makes an attack -1 to the hit roll. So now they are trying to fight back against you at -1 to hit, assuming you didn't clean them up between the Wyvern and whatever you are charging into them with. And let's go back to another one of these situations right over here. Before we get too far, I want to also make note that this says one Astra Militarum unit from your army. Select one enemy unit with an engagement range of one or more GSC units from your army, right? Your unit can make ranged attacks that target that enemy unit. This means for 2 CP with acceptable losses, this could be indirect fire as well. You got some random bullshit, neophytes or whatever else you don't really care about, a solo little guy touches somebody just to turn them off for the turn or whatever it may be. Maybe you just wanted to get your opponent's CP down, make them think that they really can finally fire Overwatch you, and you didn't really care about that. You have 2 CP in the back pocket, and you know these were acceptable losses. You touch your opponent's thing because speed is the name of the game lately. Turn off your opponent's DDA, so on and so forth, and then drop indirect fire on them. Yeah, I think that's kind of worth, especially when now with your resurgence tokens, you can just bring that unit back if you feel you really needed to do that. So, there's that. Now, going on to Field Ordnance Battery, it is infantry, it is also indirect fire. Here's the reason that I go to the Field Ordnance Battery after all of that. It's infantry, and if these Krieg infantry uh batteries, artillery follow the same pattern and become infantry, they can get better as well. I know there's leaks, and I tried to see if I could like find the like straight up data sheet somewhere. Um, couldn't, and I didn't necessarily feel like pulling from somebody else's video, just saying the words. So I'm not too sure what the keywords are specifically, right? If this turns out to be a command squad, can't do it. But I assume it would follow the same pattern as field ordnance batteries, where it's infantry, that is artillery, has indirect fire, right? And since it's infantry, with the indirect fire, what happens with indirect fire? Your opponent gets the benefit of cover. So, -1 AP. What if we put that AP back with martial espionage? GSC infantry model only, once per turn when a friendly militarum, Astra Militarum infantry, or mounted unit within 9 inches of the bearer is selected to shoot, the bearer can use this enhancement. If it does, until the end of the phase, improve the AP characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by models in that unit by 1. So, a field ordnance battery, right, using bombast field gun, blast heavy, indirect fire. Yeah, that's D6 attacks, right? Hitting on 5s. The AP would essentially evaporate, right? But if you get to keep it because of martial espionage, that's a little bit better. Now, it's D6 blast. I don't know if you're doing that with a field ordnance battery too much for 100 points. 2 ordnance teams, you could get 2d6 on it, I guess, but I I don't know if you're really caring that much about that. That's why I'm more interested to see what happens here with the siege cannon and the multiple rocket launcher version of the Krieg artillery thingy mabobber. What is the official name? Artillery team? Yeah, let's go with that. Krieg artillery team. Alright, so that's where I would like to see where this necessarily goes, especially if you have the multiple rocket launch where it's anti-infantry 3 up. Yeah, just gotta hit the infantry for 3s and then put them at AP1 regardless. Blast heavy. So that's where I'm like, well, that could be a little bit better. And also, right here, handedly enough, the combat engineers that people were losing their mind about because there's like 35 points at one point in time. Yeah, with grenadiers, you can use this, use grenade for free once per turn, right? With remote mine, once per battle at the start of your shooting phase, you can select one enemy unit within 12 inches of the bearer and roll 1d6. On a 3-up, that enemy unit suffers d6 mortal wounds, or d3 plus 3 mortal wounds instead if it is a vehicle or fortifications unit. That sounds an awful lot like demo charges. Close enough. However, The thing that is interesting is how much value can you squeeze out of this, right? What if, say, you brought three squads of these? I believe they're pointed at 70 points now because 35 was insane. I believe they're pointed at 70 points, right? So 210 points. But what if you got a fourth one with regimental reinforcements for 210 points? What if you just got a bonus one, quote unquote, and it's an identical unit, right? A new unit to your army, identical to your destroyed unit, and a cult ambush marker that can be moved within the Shadow of Iron. Yeah. What if for 140 points you have 210 points worth of grenades backslash remote mines? That doesn't sound too bad. So now again, that hinges on if this becomes a aircraft commissar epic hero. Nope. Military. Nope. Ogren. No. No. I think we're safe, but I don't really know. Right? Pretty sure. But just to say, just taking some leaps and bounds, that could be kind of okay. And then going on past this, past whoopsie, we'll see what we see, right? Also depends on the points, of course, right? Then we have the Jackal Alphas, who also has Scouts 9, attaches to Atlan Jackals, and with Master Outrider in your shooting phase after this model's unit has shot, if it is not within engagement range of any enemy units, that unit can make a normal move of up to 6 inches as if it were your movement phase. If it does until the end of the turn, that unit is not eligible to declare a charge. Also, should be noted that with priority target in your shooting phase after this model's unit has shot, select one enemy unit hit by one or more of those attacks made with a Colt sniper rifle. Until the end of the phase, each time a friendly Genestealer Colt model makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, reroll a hit roll of 1. So, Jackal Alphys and Atlan Jackals is just one of the many ways in an entire army that deep strikes, well, except for, of course, the vehicles and the bikes, to turn on things like a fucking Baneblade that has a 72-inch range Baneblade cannon. So, just saying, it could appreciate with 3d6 attacks, rerolling wound rolls of 1 over here with something like symbiotic destruction. Now, mind you, you have to make sure that you do the. If you don't want to do the scoot part, or if you do the scoot part, you can't use symbiotic destruction. But if that happened in another turn, and then it got in the way, then you can turn on symbiotic destruction in the next turn. I'm just saying you have ways of getting things in position in some ridiculous ass shit. Also, the Jackal Alphys has a Colt sniper rifle that is 36 inches. With Scout's 9 inches, a 36-inch gun is at least one ranged weapon from the unit to turn on, the Baneblade also having reroll wound rolls of 1. And then guess what? Both of them are reroll wound rolls of 1 into whatever fuck ass target you want to actually shoot. So, it's just to say you have ways of putting things in place to turn on symbiotic destruction. They just have to be visible. All three things have to see each other, basically, right? Or I guess technically. I guess that's not. I guess all three don't have to. Just your two units have to see one. I don't know why I even complicated that. That's literally what it says. So if your opponent's unit can't see the second one, and I mean they can't see it, but both of them, both of yours have to see them. Fuck the range. You get reroll wound rolls of 1. And with 3d6 attacks from a Baneblade, I think something like that might go down, whatever you're shooting at it with, strength 12, AP 2, damage 3. You're hitting on 4s. But, I don't know, maybe with the Scout Sentinel, maybe you're rerolling the hit rolls of 1 as well. So, I'm not saying that Brood Brother Auxilia is being slept on, but I think I've seen enough of the new Deathcore stuff to say that it might not be too bad. I think it definitely got ragged on, And I think that was a product of the GSC codex getting ragged on, which I'm still mad about, if I'm being honest. I've talked about this in several videos now, but look, everybody called it crap. Then it turned out to be okay enough. People started winning with it. But by that time, GW was like, well, we gotta buff this. Everybody says it's horrible. And then everybody went, but why are you buffing it? It's already mini me. So I'm just saying, hop on the train while you can. Actually see if it's that damn bad. Uh, I don't know. When you take two things that are actually okay, it can only be so fucked after that. So, yeah. If you like the video, like it. Got a comment from me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.